Here is how complicated Rivers State has become. The APC's chosen governorship candidate for 2027 is fighting a constitutional lawsuit that says his candidacy was illegal from the day he won the primary. The APC's own state party chairman, the man who ran the primary, was sacked by the Court of Appeal, which declared decisions taken under his leadership invalid. The man who was supposed to be the APC candidate before Chinda, Governor Fubara, withdrew under duress after all his loyalists were disqualified. And the man who engineered all of this, Nyesom Bike, has since gone on television and said he has not endorsed any governorship candidate at all. Meanwhile, on the NDC side, a man sharing the same surname and the same local government as the sitting governor declared for the NDC governorship ticket, sparking widespread speculation that Governor Fubara was using him a political placeholder ahead of his own defection. The NDC national leadership has denied the man is their candidate, he has denied being a placeholder, and the NDC hasn't publicly confirmed who their candidate actually is. And threading through all of this, 4 separate legal actions in 3 different courts, each capable of reshaping the 2027 ballot before a single vote is cast. The Rivers State crisis is not one story, it is 5 stories happening simultaneously, and this video maps all of them. Before we go further, if you're new here, Naija Brief exists for one reason: to give Nigerians the political analysis that mainstream media won't. Whether you're in Abuja, Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt, or London, this channel is for you. Hit subscribe and stay with me. This gets deeper. To understand where Rivers State politics currently stands, you need to understand the legal terrain. There are 4 distinct strands of litigation, each in a different court, each with a different set of parties, each producing rulings that interact with and sometimes contradict each other. Strand 1. The Federal High Court, Abuja. The ALDRAP suit against Chinda and the 27 legislative draftsmen. Filed on May 12, 2026 by the Association of Legislative Drafting and Advocacy Practitioners, this case is the most consequential currently active in the Rivers State political legal landscape. ALDRAP is asking the court for declarations that Chinda's defection from PDP to APC violated Section 68(1)(g) of the Constitution and the Electoral Act 2026, that his House of Representatives seat was automatically vacated by operation of law, and that he is therefore ineligible to contest the 2027 governorship election. The same suit targets the 27 Rivers State House of Assembly members who defected from PDP to APC in December 2023. The affidavit filed by ALDRAP argues that by April 2026, PDP had resolved its internal crisis and was a stable functioning party, meaning the division exception under 68(1)(g) did not apply at the time of the defections. Strand 2. The Court of Appeal, Port Harcourt. The Tony Okocha sacking. In a ruling that has received far less coverage than it deserves, the Court of Appeal in Port Harcourt recently sacked Tony Okocha as APC chairman in Rivers State, declaring decisions taken under his leadership to be invalid. Okocha is a Wike ally who has led the APC structure in Rivers State through the entire Fubara conflict. If decisions taken under his leadership are invalid, that declaration potentially voids party approvals, candidate endorsements, and internal party processes that flowed from his chairmanship, including elements of the primary process that produced Chinda as the APC candidate. Strand 3. The Supreme Court. The pending ALDRAP review application. In March 2025, ALDRAP filed a formal application asking the Supreme Court to review its February 28, 2025 ruling, the 5-justice panel ruling that restored the 27 defecting lawmakers to the Rivers State House of Assembly and froze state government federation account allocations. ALDRAP argues the five-justice ruling improperly contradicted a 2015 seven-justice precedent without following the required procedure for overruling binding Supreme Court decisions. This application, if heard by a full panel of 7 justices, could reset the constitutional foundation of every defection-based political position in Rivers State. Strand 4. The Federal High Court, Abuja. The George Kelly Presidential Appointee Eligibility Challenge. Running parallel to the Chinda suit is a challenge against Alabu Dakorinama George Kelly, who withdrew from the APC primary before it took place. The suit argues that Kelly failed to resign his position as Director General of the Border Communities Development Agency by the March 30, 2026 deadline set for presidential appointees seeking elective office. Although Kelly withdrew from the APC primary, his initial participation itself is challenged as constitutionally irregular. The case's significance extends beyond George Kelly personally. It establishes a legal precedent about the deadline compliance requirements for presidential appointees in the 2027 cycle. 4 court strands, each active, each with potential to reshape the Rivers State ballot before Election Day. Of all 4 strands, the ALDRAP suit against Kingsley Chinda is the most immediately consequential for the 2027 governorship, and it raises constitutional questions that courts have never squarely resolved in the specific sequence Chinda created. The sequence, as established in court documents, runs like this. Chinda's letter from PDP is dated April 23, 2026. His constituents in Obio Akpo had served him a pre-action recall notice in October 2025, warning that defection would trigger a formal lawsuit. His formal defection and resignation as minority leader was announced on the floor of the House by Speaker Tajuddin Abbas on June 2, 2026. He won the APC governorship primary as the sole candidate on May 21, 2026, 12 days before the formal floor announcement of his defection. Chinda's defenders, speaking through the Rivers Development Agenda Group, argue that he ceased performing his duties as minority leader from April 2, 2026, well within the electoral guidelines. They argue he satisfied Section 177 of the Constitution on governorship qualifications and met the requirements of Section 77 of the Electoral Act 2026. Their position is that the constitutional requirements were substantially met, even if the procedural timing of the floor announcement came later. ALDRAP's counter-argument is precise and legally specific. The Supreme Court's February 2025 ruling, whatever its other controversies, established a procedural requirement. Formal defection must be announced on the floor of the legislature by the presiding officer during plenary. That announcement came on June 2nd. The primary happened on May 21st. Under the Supreme Court's own procedural standard, Chinda was not a constitutionally valid APC member at the time he contested the primary. His victory in the primary was therefore obtained while he was constitutionally still a PDP member. That makes his candidacy constitutionally infirm at its root. The court must now decide which date controls, the letter date, the effective cessation of minority leader duties, or the formal floor announcement. That question has no direct precedent in Nigerian jurisprudence. The court will be making new law, and whichever direction it rules, an immediate appeal is certain. Now, if what I just told you surprises you, drop a comment below. I want to know your reaction before we get to the part that changes everything. Now, here is the most surprising development in the Rivers State political landscape in the past 2 weeks, and the one that almost no national analyst has properly contextualized. Nyesom Wike, speaking at a luncheon in Port Harcourt in late May 2026, publicly distanced himself from Chinda as his endorsed candidate. He said the emerging Rainbow Coalition, a cross-party structure comprising members of the APC, PDP, Labour Party and Action Alliance, would collectively determine who becomes Rivers governor in 2027. He said no final decision had been taken on the governorship ticket and that aspirants would still contest to demonstrate their popularity. Read that carefully.
the man who built the entire APC structure in Rivers around the premise that Fubara could not have a second term, who brokered the deal that removed Fubara from the ballot, is now saying the APC candidate he delivered is not necessarily his final answer. Two things explain this pivot. First, the Court of Appeal's sacking of Tony Okocha as APC Rivers chairman. If decisions under Okocha's chairmanship are invalid, the party architecture Wike used to deliver Chinda's uncontested primary is legally compromised. Wike is not distancing himself from Chinda because he lost confidence in him. He is creating political distance because the legal ground beneath Chinda's candidacy is shifting, and he does not want to be structurally tied to a candidacy that courts may invalidate. Second, the Rainbow Coalition framing is Wike's insurance policy. By bringing PDP, LP, and Action Alliance allies into a joint political structure, Wike is building a candidacy selection mechanism that does not depend on any single party's legal validity. If Chinda is disqualified, the Rainbow Coalition produces a replacement candidate through its own internal consensus process, one that Wike controls. The coalition is not a democratic structure. It is a personalized political failsafe. This matters enormously for how you read what happens next in Rivers State. Every announcement from Wike about coalition building, consensus, and rainbow politics is not cooperation. It is a hedge against legal and electoral uncertainty. A man who has built his political career on controlling outcomes, now constructing a structure that can survive multiple possible court rulings simultaneously. While the APC's legal problems compound, the NDC is contesting Rivers State with its own layers of complexity. Within hours of Governor Fubara's withdrawal from the APC primary on May 20, 2026, a politician named Blessing Fubara, who shares the governor's surname and the same Opobo and Nkoro local government area, formally obtained NDC nomination forms for the Rivers State governorship. He was received in Abuja by NDC national leader Siriake Dixon. He defected from the APC to the NDC weeks earlier. He described the NDC as a moving train. He presented himself as a candidate driven by the interests of Rivers people. The political signal was read immediately and widely. Governor Siminali Fubara, squeezed out of the APC primary, was using his brother or a relative as a political placeholder, positioning himself to defect to the NDC and inherit the governorship ticket ahead of 2027. Blessing Fubara Sr. denied being a placeholder. "Rivers people know me very well," he said in a radio interview. The NDC's national new media director, Theo Abuagada, confirmed the denial from the party side. "This person is not the candidate of our party in Rivers State."
But the NDC's clarification created its own problem. If Blessing Fubara is not the confirmed NDC candidate, who is? The party held gubernatorial primaries in Rivers State that featured both Blessing Fubara and Alabodumo Lulu Briggs as prominent contenders. The outcome of those primaries has not been officially announced. Both the state and national NDC leadership have maintained what reporters described as sealed lips on the result, not just in Rivers State, but across multiple states. That silence is politically strategic. NDC is leaving the door open for Governor Siminalayi Fubara himself to defect to the party and claim the ticket. His current APC membership is functionally worthless. He was not received at the national level, was not cleared to contest the primary, and has been politically marginalized within the party. The logical next step for Fubara, the step his supporters are openly urging, is to formally join NDC and contest the governorship on the Obi Kwankwaso platform. If that happens, Rivers State 2027 becomes a direct contest between the sitting governor on NDC and Wike's chosen candidate on APC, a contest with every element of personal history, constitutional injury, and democratic grievance baked into it. 3 scenarios for Rivers State 2027 and what each means. Scenario 1. If the courts uphold Chinda. If the Federal High Court dismisses ALDRAP's suit and Chinanda's candidacy survives judicial scrutiny, he contests as APC candidate backed by Wike's Rainbow Coalition. NDC must mobilize grassroots anger at Wike's political control to compete. This is the scenario Wike is currently optimizing for. Scenario 2. If the courts disqualify Chinda.
If ALDRAP succeeds in obtaining a federal high court declaration that Chinanda's candidacy is void, Wike's Rainbow Coalition scrambles to field a replacement under severe time pressure. The APC must convene a fresh primary, reopening the contest Fubara was denied. Fubara's supporters immediately demand he be allowed back in. This scenario produces the most unpredictable political environment Rivers State has experienced since 2023, and is the scenario in which the NDC has its clearest opening. Scenario 3. Fubara formally joins NDC. This is the scenario that transforms Rivers State into the most nationally watched governorship contest of 2027. A sitting governor, denied a second term through a private political deal, his loyalists systematically disqualified, his constitutional rights overridden, running against his predecessor's hand-picked successor on a ticket backed by Peter Obi and Kwankwaso. The resonance of that contest beyond Rivers State for every Nigerian who believes godfatherism has gone too far is enormous. This is the scenario the NDC is quietly positioning for, and the silence about their governorship primary result is the space they are keeping open for it. For ordinary Rivers people watching all of this unfold, the question is not which party or which candidate. The question is whether in the midst of all this legal complexity, political maneuvering and constitutional uncertainty, the vote they cast on election day in May 2027 will actually count. Whether the will of Rivers citizens, not the will of godfathers, coalition conveners or Supreme Court panels, will determine who governs them for the next 4 years. That is the question that every legal argument, every court ruling and every political pivot in Rivers State is ultimately avoiding. And it is the question Rivers voters must insist be answered, not by the courts, not by Wike, not by Peter Obi's NDC, but by the ballot itself. If this analysis gave you clarity, share it with one person who needs to understand what is really happening in Nigeria. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.